Good morning, garden friends. This is July 13th or 14th? 14th, I think. And we're going to do a garden tour. Things constantly change, as I've mentioned before, and it's worth always, every week, doing a video. At first I thought, well, maybe I was doing too many and annoying people, but the fact is I get lots of notes of people saying they love it. They love seeing the different changes and how it morphs over the season and how you can enjoy a succession of blooms. Like when the iris went out, other things were blooming. And as the delphiniums are finishing up, the monarda, the bee balm, is coming into bloom. I have pulled out a lot of larkspur. The larkspur would continue to bloom with deadheading. And last year I did a deadheading video for you on how to keep your certain plants blooming for you just by deadheading. And if you have a cut flower garden, or if you cut flowers for bouquets, that is another means of keeping things blooming. So I'm going to put you on the gimbal. That worked really well last time. And we're going to walk around the garden, see what's fading and what's coming into bloom, and the changes. I have, my mossy heart is really coming together and I love it. I'm going to do another. So I want to show you that. So let's get going. We'll start right here. So many things have gotten planted. There's a lot of things still here in the staging area. I have decided that I'm going to move this bench either forward or over to my patio garden. And why I want to do that is I want to put hostas along here on the ground. At first I didn't, because we get heavy snows and it comes off my studio and piles up right here. But hostas, you know, they're deciduous. They go back to the ground, to their bulbs, in the winter, so that really wouldn't matter. So I think a nice pretty hosta collection here with some hydrangeas that enjoy the shade, and that would be really pretty here. The bench tends to collect things rather than me getting to sit on it. This is kind of a shady area in the afternoon, later afternoon, but it's been so hot I haven't been out here in the later afternoon. I'm inside doing my work on my computer or trying to do a painting tutorial in my studio. So I think a better use for this bench, I've been thinking, as I said, putting it over on my little patio, which I'll show you in a minute. It's really coming together too. But I've started working on the paths in here. I've decided I'm gonna have like a big circle planting in the middle. You see here, I'm gonna have boxwoods all around this, and then the path. And so maybe there'll be some low growing ground cover in front of the boxwoods. That's real pretty. Maybe some lamium or something like that. We'll see. And then the borders will be wider. So then I could put more shrubs back along the fence. And I'm thinking some of the paniculata, however you pronounce it, hydrangeas back there. It gets pretty sunny, but that would be really pretty and would bloom later in the season. I'm going to put you on the gimbal now, and we are going to walk around, take some close-ups of the flowers in bloom. So this is the one path. It has yet to get its bark down, but the straw is doing great, the alfalfa hay. But look, here I got my moss heart put in. Isn't that just a beautiful color of green? And I put some river rocks and then some gravel around it to accent it and keep it tidier right here. And it's so great to have where the eye can rest. And this caladium I picked up at Lowe's, I think. I just couldn't resist it, and I thought that bright white foliage right here really lightened this area up. This is the hydrangea I dug up last year because it was struggling where it was at, and it's really putting on new growth. It loves it here, it loves its pot, and I'm giving it a product called Agro Thrive, and I'm really liking this product. It's a liquid fertilizer, organic, and everything I've been using on it, or putting it on, has really done well. So there's my bird bath. or my shower, my hummingbird shower. I need to clean this, and I'm going to do a video. People have asked me how I clean them, so I'm get that on my list. The hay rack, it's still just struggling. Those petunias should be much bigger, and it just dries out too quickly, and without something dripping into it all the time with this heat. We've been having 100-degree weather. It's just really struggling, so I don't think that was a great idea there. Or I could put succulents in there and it would do better, like some sedums. But here, look at these. Aren't they gorgeous, these hollyhocks? The other ones were more peach, so I'm wondering if this was the pink and white. They're called Brides something, from Swallowtail Garden Seeds. Oh, those hummingbirds just about whacked me. Let me see if I can put you up there where you can see them. I'm moving slow so I don't scare the bird. See Mr. Hummer up there? Let me see if I can zoom in more. Nope. Anyways, zoom out. Let's come back to our hollyhocks. The sweet peas are still struggling with this heat. I do now have this soaker hose, which will be covered up once I get all the bark in here. The ferns are starting to come up in there. I might let that one, and it'll shade the sweet peas for a little bit, and then once they get going, I can cut it back. My echinacea is beginning to bloom. That's white swan. The two babies that I planted direct sown are right there. They won't bloom until next year, but that's okay. Right down here is the sea holly. This one right here is still struggling, but it's got a new leaf on it, so it's coming along, and the one behind. Those are the ones I did bare root. I had some I started from seed, and they're out in the front garden. This I had planted last year. Can you see this little sparkly? That's a grass, and I started to pull these out when I saw them, and I forgot that this is a particular variety, and it gets these little tiny things on it, and it looks like fireworks. And so I have this one, and I have one that's further along that is just a really pretty accent in there. And here is, this is my, let's see, petite pink, what is that called again? This is Petite Pink Gara, and this is a proven winner selection. I've never been a real fan of Gara because it would get so big and weedy, but these shorter varieties I'm loving. They're just really pretty. I have another one in the other bed I am creating. So there's some phlox, garden phlox, either that or asters. I'll have to remember. They look so similar to me. Some sedum. This is Autumn Joy, but I've never really had much success with it, so I'm not sure what's going on there. This clematis, I think, is going to bloom. It's got buds on it, but it's sure taking its sweet time, but it'll be sweet when it does. So down here is, this is the Jupiter's Beard, also valerian. I need to move because this is the pathway. Over here, the centerpiece, this Veronica, I forgot what was in here. I need to get it in the ground. That's on my chore list, but the lavender, lady lavender, this stays really short, and I love it because it stays short. This isn't really for picking, but it is beautiful. I've got 3 plants right there. I need to pull out here because I want to add more of there's one of my boxwoods, and that was one of the cuttings I just stuck in the ground and they rooted. I've got some all the way around the back. My Asiatic lilies right here, they're getting ready to bloom, but they're starting to lean, so I need to put a stake in here to tie them up so they don't flop over. You might see hummingbirds flying through it now and again. Purple Rooster Monarda, this is the one I dug out. There was a piece left, and look how it just took off. It likes this spot. So I let this go ahead and bloom. I will move this. I've given tons of this away, but it just is such a pretty color that I love it. I want to put some more up in the front and a side garden. Now here is where I'm going to do another heart. The moss wouldn't do well here. It gets too hot. So I'm going to find something else, maybe the woolly thyme, but I certainly need a weed around it and whatever. That's a project. on the list, of course, but here's another one of those sparklers. Can you see this? I just love those. They're so pretty. And the heuchera behind it is doing great. I put one of my dahlias in the ground. It's another one. Taking a risk. I haven't seen much gopher activity back here. If I do, I will just set my trap and catch those little rascals. This right here is some of the, is it a euonymus? And I thought it would be too big to put in here by the fence. And then I saw some that they had espaliered on a trellis, and it looked gorgeous. So I think I'm going to do that back here. As soon as fall comes, I'll put it in the ground. But look at here. This is my grandmother's hat rose. Just love this thing. The blooms don't last long once they pop out, but it has been very generous with its blooms. So I don't mind if they don't last. Just look at that beautiful pink color. Here is my Santa Cruz begonia. My other begonias I did in pots, I potted up and did a video. They're doing terrible. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know if it's because it turns so horribly hot. My Olivia Austin rose is struggling. The blooms are usually much bigger, but this heat has just been scorching them. We're supposed to get a relief this week, drop to the 80s, so hopefully the up and coming blooms will be prettier. My grow box, my dahlias in there are doing beautiful. Put another dahlia in the ground here. I put some cleome that I started from seed back there because the delphiniums are fading. These need to be cut down to the ground, or pretty close to the ground, and I maybe could get another bloom. This hollyhock that I've shared recently is the one that it's called Peaches and Dreams, and it's a pretty peachy color, but it's almost done blooming. I will let it go to seed, and then I will drop the seed right here and see if they come back true. That would be beautiful. The pink poppies, I usually would deadhead them, and then they would rebloom a little bit. I just didn't get to that. So I'll let these seeds drop. Now let me see if I can find, I took a picture of it. The other poppy, my Lauren's grape, I've been trying to get one of those forever to germinate, and one was blooming the other day. I don't see it. Sorry if I'm reaching, if I'm not in the camera. Okay, there it went to seed. So there's the seed pod. So I'm going to let these, I'll put the picture up that I took. I'm going to let this go to seed and drop, and then there'll be bazillion seeds in here, and I'll get more. But look at this dahlia that's starting. Isn't that the color gorgeous? That one is the one I put in the ground, and it took off much faster than the ones I put in my grow box. But all is good. They're all growing good and coming along. I put one in this container. All the lettuce had got bolted. Well, not all of it, because here's one that is left, and that is called Queen of Crunch. That is, I've really been impressed with that one. It is very crunchy, and it's kind of, this part is holding up this one during the heat, and I need to pick this before it bolts and then go ahead and put something else in here, or I can seed it. I don't know if I'd put more lettuce or what I would do. This purple Rooster Bernarda is just doing great right here. I love it against the fence because it's so tall, and it's just really pretty. The red is kind of getting squished out, and it's blooming on the other side of the fence. Not what I meant for it to do, but I'm not gonna change it. It's just my neighbors can enjoy it from their place. My Hyde Hall rose, it's struggling too a little bit, only because of the heat, but it's coming along. I mean, the blooms are still really pretty. Now another delphinium, not delphinium, dahlia, and then behind it some cleome, and hopefully that'll get going. It took my cleome forever to sprout. It just like it wanted it hot or who knows what. But this delphinium that was so gorgeous last time is about spent. I will chop it down and maybe get a rebloom. It would be shorter, but normally I don't usually have a long enough season to get rebloom, but this year has been so dramatically different. The iceberg rose is reblooming. It doesn't seem to be missing a beat in the heat. And it's going to be even more gorgeous next year. I can't wait. My Aglaia, or Shaggy Maggie Daisy, is doing great. I just saw one at Lowe's and they called it Freak something, but it was very shaggy like this one and just gorgeous. A friend gave this one to me, so I don't know the commercial name, but it is an Aglaia daisy when they look like this. And I will get out a support. They have a tendency to flop. I'll show you one in a minute. And I have to put supports at the base. Now this larkspur has been deadheaded, needs to be deadheaded again, and keeps blooming. This is a Cosmos. I think this one's a volunteer. I don't remember planting it there. And the echinaceas are starting. It too, everything's wanting to lean this way because the sun comes from that direction. And excuse my hose, I was watering last night when it was so hot. Around here, on this side of the pathway, there is some larkspur. I need a deadhead. The daisies need a deadheading. They'll keep blooming. My lavenders are just coming along. Down here, I had planted some cleome and something ate it. And now I've planted zinnias. And it looks like something eating on them. I'm not sure what. I need to find out what's eating them so I can take care of it. Now over here is, you can see my boxwoods getting swamped from weeds, but there's a boxwood. There's one, there's two more there, and a couple more around the side. And as I said, those were just cuttings I stuck in the ground there and they took. And I think it'll be really pretty with the boxwoods surrounding that. Something really pretty and green in the winter. And over here is the moss that I took the other one from. And if you could see it, it's getting kind of scorched in the middle. You see kind of that bare spot. And that's why I knew it wouldn't work in that other heart, because it gets too hot, and it's scorched because of that hot sun it gets right there. So I am going to move it to another spot, and I'll show you that in a minute. Some salvia. This one came back from last year and is doing so pretty. I had a dark blue one. Oh, I think it's coming back. It's one that many find invasive, but for me it struggles. But there it is, coming back. And that's the black and blue, I think it's called. But I don't even know if it'll get big enough to bloom before we get cold. This is mid-July, so, and our first frost, hard frost, is usually in October. But these daisies need to be cut back. You see they're kind of trying to flop. And down there I have some oxalis, not the weedy kind. This is the pink one, and it is a nice pretty little plant, little ground cover that puts on pretty pink flowers. This one struggled because when I put it in, it was super hot, and keeping it wet, moist, has been challenging. The petunias have been struggling too. I'm trying to get a drip system in here. It's kind of hard when everything's, in full bloom. This is the area that's going to be cleared out, and I will put the heart here. And what will make it nice is the overspray from this bird bath, which the raccoons have been in there because I can see my thing doesn't have its spout on it, and I need to clean that very well. That's, like I said, coming up in a video. This is the boxwood I wanted to make a chicken topiary out of. I just haven't got to that. I've got the little form I had to create. You can't find them. And if you do, they're like $125. No thank you. And here is some lilies doing beautiful in this container. My Colette Rose is coming along just fine. The blooms have gotten scalded from the hot sun, but they'll come along. They'll rebloom. These are still doing beautifully. They bloomed a little bit later than the blue. I've already had to cut several off because they flopped. For some reason, the stems became super weak. I don't know if they didn't have enough water or what the deal was, but all of a sudden they just would snap at the top. And when I tried to pick them, they just kept flopping over. I'd have to stuff them in a jar really quick before they busted in my hand. So here's the other Aglaia daisy, and you can see how it flops. I thought I was going to do better about keeping it attached to this form, and I didn't. I've just been so busy that I've not kept up with everything. But these will be picked and put in a vase, and then it will rebloom, and I'll try to be more conscientious. So my echinacea here are blooming and they're leaning over, and I have a post I'm going to do on how I create plant supports from remesh, concrete remesh wire. So I pulled out the foxgloves, sprinkled the seeds down here so they could germinate and come up. And there's my sentimental rose. This daisy was supposed to stay short. It was 1 foot tall, and it stays 1 foot tall up front. When I took a division and put it back here, it became 3 foot tall. I didn't want something so tall at the front of the border. So I'm going to have to move this and replace it with something that stays a bit shorter. But here, look at these. These are, I think, pagan purple delphiniums. Aren't they just gorgeous? They're just really starting to come into bloom. Let me walk around it as carefully as I can. Just gorgeous. They're tied up to that obelisk, so I put that obelisk there so it would keep them nice and upright. And it's doing the job. See, all the way around, you can see all the gorgeous blooms. They got really tall. I started adding water and they just took off. So let's look back this way on the garden. This is a bed here that was adding new things too. Look at this echinacea, it's still in the pot, doing beautiful. I need to get it in the ground. But look at this. It's a lime nicotiana, and it has just not stopped. It just keeps getting better and better no matter what. I pulled out the poppies and larkspur that were here because they were crowding out my new little hardy geranium that's down there. And I want that to kind of fill up through this orb. Hardy geraniums, some varieties can get tall and floppy, but I don't mind that. I just provide a support and they look beautiful. And there's another Gara back there that I got. This is another Proven Winners one. I'm not sure the name, the tag's down there, but I'm not going to reach down for it. I also have, some of my, it's not rose campion, it's the white one with the pink, blush pink. Oh, there's the flower. It's getting hidden by this. But see, there it is right there. I hope it's focusing for you. And I wanted white ones. The pink ones do so beautifully and bloom a long time if deadheaded. And I wanted some more. I wanted the white ones. My neighbor had the white ones. There is a salvia that I had snapped off another one accidentally when I was planting it, and I rooted it, and there it is growing in this spot. Here's a phlox. This is the creme brulee phlox. It's getting shaded out. I didn't know this nicotiana was going to get so big. I need to kind of trim it back a little bit so this phlox gets the sun. But this is a really pretty color, and it is an annual. So it's not the perennial, which will come back every year by itself, but maybe it will reseed and come back just fine. My lobelia and alyssum in this bed is doing great. It's doing much better. I had put some more down here, but it was while it was really hot and it just didn't take. So I should have gotten it in sooner. I didn't expect it to turn so hot so quick. But here's some more along this side. I like the low growing like that against the edge of the border or the path, just to add a little something. And here is that fantastic sweet pea that just keeps going. A week ago, I stripped every bloom off of this. Yesterday, I picked a ton more off, and it just keeps going. I can't believe even in these 100-degree temperatures, it's just not missed a beat. Now here's another one I planted. I don't know which one this is, but can tell it's a bit different because it's just purple. And then down here is one called Clotted Cream that I got from Sweet Pea Gardens. Isn't that pretty? Just a beautiful white, and I think it's really pretty against this one. So I am going to do again, like I said in the last video, I think. I'm going to plant some sweet pea seeds in the fall and let them germinate and see if they do as beautifully as this one. Normally we'd get a hard late freeze and it would freeze them out but I'm gonna maybe have a plan to protect them. And then these have beat out any I planted this spring. Well, I did plant this one in the spring, but look how small it is compared to this one, and it's just not performed yet. So for me, planting in the fall will be the ticket. I think I took you around everything right here. My roses are still doing good. I've got to tie some of them back. And let's go to the veggie garden. I've struggled with a few things, but other things are doing great. My soaker system didn't work, so I have to redo it. But these cosmos came back from last year. Aren't they pretty? The dill is doing beautifully. I've not seen any swallowtail larvae on it, but who knows? I might get fortunate enough to get some. Down here is that hyacinth bean vine I planted. And I need to make sure it climbs up, give it some wire support. And that should be pretty on this obelisk. My tomatoes, I put them up on this remesh wire that's just stuck in the ground. And I weaved it in and out. And then I'm going to put some wire from the arbor over top to continue to climb on. This is a zucchini squash, a little one that I transplanted in here from another bed. It sprouted in another bed and I didn't want it there, so I put it over here. So some people say, you can't transplant zucchinis, cucumbers, what have you. Don't be afraid. This one is going to get thrown away or cut off as I was thinning out what I had. So just plopping it in here and giving it a try, there was nothing lost if it died. But it didn't. It took off and it's doing great right there. So it'll make great ground cover for these tomatoes. Over here I had planted sunflowers and something ate them. I planted some in the raised bed and they are doing great. So maybe planting in the raised bed is the ticket for the sunflowers for me. I have a pretty butterfly bush there. My peppers should be coming along great since they love the heat. This one right here has got some flowers on it, doing great. These gladiolas it cracks me up. These things have been shoved around because I just dug this up. I didn't realize they were in there, and here they come. So those are going to be pretty. I've already been picking tomatoes off this plant. That's unreal for me. I'm usually not picking tomatoes until August because we have such a short season. Over here I have, it looks like I need to pick some basil. Basil and green beans. Only 2 of my green beans came up. I think the seeds have got old. Back there's another one of those squash, and I have another one over in this bed. These are the ones that are supposed to stay smaller and they could be grown in containers. My first time with them, so we'll see how that goes. This tomato over here, this is Brandy Boy. Last year I had such great success with the one I had and I loved it. It's a hybrid of brandy wine, but it's supposed to be more productive. This is a zucchetta. I love the climbing zucchetta that just likes it really hot and usually takes a longer growing season. It took it a while to take off, but now it's going and I'll have it climb the fence. But those things are delicious. It has a hint of artichoke flavor in it. The lettuce bed, this is all bolted. And here's my cucumbers coming up. I'm going to build a trellis where it will shade this bed. And then I can seed some more lettuce in here. We ate salad after salad after salad, and we never ran out of lettuce. And this 100-degree temperature just all started to bolt. So it's time to create some shade. Down here, I have some nasturtiums I seeded. And some, okay, Mr. Hummer, it's all right. Let's see if he'll stay there. Nope. See if he stays there. Sorry for a whoop. Oh. Anyways, let's go back. Down there's some alyssum I put in. Alyssum and nasturtiums are great to grow around your veggies because they attract beneficial insects, and the alyssum will attract aphids away from your plants and survive the attack. I don't have a lot of aphids because I get so many ladybugs, that they really take care of all the aphid population. Another rose tomato down here. This is my favorite, Camp Joy. It's a cherry or smaller tomato, and the flavor is just outstanding. I grow it every year. My blueberries really love the move into this container. Had them in a fabric pot. They struggled. I never could get them to do well in the fabric pot. So for me, those fabric pots just don't work. And hopefully next year I'll have blueberries. There's 2 in there, so they cross-pollinate. Here is my strawberry bed that I planted when it started to snow. And I've got some nice sized berries. Look at those berries right there. And then over here, it looks like I'm getting some that are getting ripe. And so far the birds haven't gotten in here to raid this. Maybe the kitties are keeping them at bay. I can only hope. So here's the back side of the Secret Garden, looking back towards the studio, and there's those delphiniums. This is globe thistle. I'm not sure if I'm liking it or not, so we'll see if it remains. And there is my sentimental rose. Isn't it pretty? This one has done super well in this container. Let me zoom back out. And when I had planted it, which I've mentioned before, all I had on hand was some compost from my compost pile, and I just threw it in there because the gophers were eating it. And it took off like crazy and has done great. Beside the greenhouse, this is a whole other area. I was going to clear this all out and do just cutting flowers in here, the everlasting cutting flowers, you know, the ones you can dry and they keep their color. But I've got someone coming to repair the greenhouse. Look at that poor thing. It's just been beat up. And I didn't want to hinder their being able to work around here. Everything here can either come out, like the daisies and whatever, these are all half volunteer, and other things are in pots, so they can be moved easily. So I'm just waiting to hear back when they can tackle it. They may be waiting for the heat to dissipate, and it should in not too long. But that elephant here, it just slays me. I had it in the basement storing it, and a rat ate it. And I thought, oh, I'll plop it in here anyways. I had it in the greenhouse. I brought it out, put it out here when it got hot, and it's growing. I couldn't believe, I mean, it was really eaten. And there it is growing. I didn't realize they were so tough. And that, my friends, is the Secret Cottage Garden in the middle of July. And as I get more projects done, it will only improve. That's my hopes. And everything I'm trying to include, I'm trying really, really hard to incorporate drought-tolerant plants, because we're really having a tremendous drought in California, as well as Oregon, Washington, Colorado, all of the western states, and I need to be mindful of what I plant to save water. I hope you join me in my next video. Just a parting note, look at that. That's my Princess Alexandra of Kent rose. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at all the blooms on that, even in this heat. Though this area gets a little bit more shade during the hot part of the day. So I gotta find her a really nice place in the ground that she can just thrive. We'll see. Okay, that really is the end.